Ancient Rome. A wealthy senator leans over a marble basin. He dips a wooden stick into a small ceramic jar. The jar is full of urine, human urine shipped in from Portugal because the Portuguese were famous for having the strongest. He swishes it around his mouth. He spits. He smiles. And his teeth? Gleaming white. Now imagine today without toothbrushes. No bristles, no toothpaste, no dentists. Just you, your breath, and whatever you could find to scrape the rot off your teeth. For most of human history, that was reality. And what people used to clean their mouths is going to make you grateful for the plastic stick sitting by your bathroom sink. I'm Henry Walsh of Filthy Past, and this is Filthy Past, of how we kept our teeth from falling out of our skulls. This is the history of the toothbrush. Here's what most people don't realize. The toothbrush isn't modern, not even close. Around 3500 BC, the Babylonians were already doing something about their teeth. They'd take a small twig, chew on one end until the fibers split apart into a kind of natural brush and rub it against their gums. Archaeologists have found these chew sticks in tombs all over Mesopotamia. The Egyptians went further. They mixed crushed eggshells, ashes from burnt ox hooves, and ground pumice stone into a powder. Then they rubbed it on their teeth with their finger. Imagine that. Burnt hoof paste on your gums every morning. And the Chinese? In 1498, during the Ming dynasty, an emperor had a revolutionary idea. He took the coarse hairs from the back of a Siberian hog, bound them to a bamboo handle, and invented what we would actually recognize as a toothbrush. Hog bristles, stiff, sharp, and probably painful. But here's the thing, the emperor kept it to himself. For nearly 200 years, the Chinese toothbrush was a luxury object known only to the royal court. Meanwhile, in Europe, they were doing something much, much worse. When Rome fell, so did Roman dental care, and the Romans, believe it or not, had been obsessed with their teeth. They used the urine trick I mentioned earlier. It sounds insane, but urine contains ammonia, which is genuinely an effective whitening agent. The Romans weren't stupid. They were just working with what they had. After Rome collapsed, that knowledge disappeared. For the next 1,000 years, medieval Europeans cleaned their teeth with whatever was nearby. Linen rags, bird feathers, porcupine quills. Some rubbed their teeth with the burnt ashes of rosemary. Others used a mixture of honey and salt, which probably cleaned the teeth and immediately rotted them again. And when your teeth started to go bad, which they always did, you didn't go to a dentist. Because dentists didn't exist. You went to the barber. That's right. The same man who cut your hair also pulled your teeth. Barber surgeons, they were called. And their tools were medieval in the most literal sense of the word. Iron pliers, metal hooks, a device called a dental pelican that looked like a crowbar with a beak. There was no anesthesia. There was no hygiene. The pliers that pulled your rotten molar had probably pulled 10 other people's teeth that same morning, without being cleaned. People died from tooth infections all the time. A cavity could kill you. Queen Elizabeth I, the most powerful woman in 16th century Europe, had teeth so black and rotten that foreign ambassadors had trouble understanding her when she spoke. She refused to have them pulled because she was terrified of the pain. This was the most powerful person in England, and her mouth was falling apart. Then, in 1780, something changed, and it started in a prison cell. A man named William Addis was locked up in Newgate Prison in London. He'd been arrested for causing a riot, and sitting in his cell, bored and filthy, he watched the other prisoners clean their teeth by rubbing a rag with soot and salt across their gums. Addis thought there had to be a better way. He saved a small bone from his dinner. He drilled tiny holes into one end. He got hold of some stiff bristles, probably from a broom, and he glued them into the holes. He'd just invented the first mass-producible toothbrush in Western history. When Addis got out of prison, he started a company to manufacture them. That company still exists today. It's called Wisdom Toothbrushes, and it's one of the oldest continuously operating toothbrush makers on Earth. All because a man in a prison cell got tired of rubbing soot on his gums. But here's where it gets dark again. Those early toothbrushes used animal bristles. Hog hair, horse hair, badger hair. The bristles held bacteria. They never fully dried, and they fell out of the handle constantly, leaving sharp little stubs behind. People were brushing their teeth with what was essentially a petri dish on a stick, and most people didn't brush at all. Throughout the 1800s, toothbrushes were a luxury item. Working-class families might share a single toothbrush between every member of the household. Children, parents, grandparents, same brush. By the way, if you've made it this far, you clearly have a stronger stomach than most. If you want more stories like this, the disgusting, forgotten truth behind the things you use every day, hit subscribe. You're the exact kind of person this channel is made for. Now back to the story. Let me tell you about a man named Washington Sheffield. Sheffield was a dentist in Connecticut in the 1870s, and he had a problem. His patients were still using tooth powder, the same kind of abrasive mixtures people had been using for centuries. He wanted something better, something that would actually clean teeth without destroying the enamel. So he invented modern toothpaste, a cream-based formula in a small porcelain jar. It was revolutionary, but there was a flaw. Every customer had to dip their own toothbrush into the shared jar. One jar used by an entire family, sometimes by multiple families who shared the same washroom in tenement housing. Every brush that dipped into that jar left behind bacteria from a dozen mouths. Sheffield's son, Lucius, was the one who solved it. While traveling in Paris, he watched artists squeeze oil paint from collapsible metal tubes, and he had the idea that would change dentistry forever. He put toothpaste in a tube. It seems obvious now, but that single innovation, taking paste out of a shared jar and putting it in a sealed tube, probably saved more lives than most 19th century medicines. And yet, Lucius Sheffield is barely remembered. Go ask 10 people who invented toothpaste in a tube, you'll get blank stares. The name most people know is Colgate, because William Colgate's company stole the idea, scaled it up, and slapped their name on it. Sheffield invented it. Colgate got the credit. Sound familiar? The nylon toothbrush, the one sitting in your bathroom right now, didn't exist until 1938. DuPont chemists invented nylon in 1935. 3 years later, they applied it to toothbrush bristles. For the first time in human history, we had a brush that didn't harbor bacteria, didn't fall apart, and didn't smell like a wet animal after a week of use. But Americans still weren't brushing regularly. Not really. What changed that? World War II. American soldiers were ordered to brush their teeth twice a day. It was part of basic training. For millions of young men, the army was the first time they'd ever owned a toothbrush of their own. When they came home in 1945, they brought that habit with them. Brushing your teeth twice a day isn't ancient wisdom. It isn't common sense. It's a military habit that civilians copied less than 80 years ago. And the electric toothbrush? Invented in Switzerland in 1954, originally for patients who couldn't brush properly because of limited motor function. It wasn't until the 1990s that they became mainstream, which means your grandparents almost certainly grew up sharing a single bacteria-loaded animal hair toothbrush with their entire family. Here's what most people never think about. The toothbrush isn't just a hygiene tool, it's one of the single greatest life extension inventions in human history. Before regular toothbrushing, the average person lost most of their teeth by age 40. Gum disease fed infections that traveled to the heart and brain. Dental abscesses killed tens of thousands of people every year, well into the 20th century. Today, in countries with widespread dental hygiene, people keep most of their teeth into their 80s. Heart disease rates linked to oral bacteria have plummeted. Life expectancy has climbed. A plastic stick with nylon bristles. That's what did it. Not a vaccine, not a drug, a toothbrush. The next time you pick yours up, remember, You're holding 5,000 years of human suffering finally solved. You're holding Babylonian chew sticks, Egyptian ox hoof powder, Chinese hog bristles, William Addis in his prison cell, and Lucius Sheffield squeezing paste out of a tube. You're holding a revolution the size of your thumb. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Filthy Past. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment below telling me which everyday object you want me to dig into next. Next week, we're going somewhere even darker. Before deodorant existed, Europe smelled so bad that kings literally banned bathing because they thought water would kill them. The filthy history of deodorant, coming soon. Until then, take a look around. The past is filthier than you think.